Hello everyone, my name is Passek, the FlyFish Fanatic, and welcome to my tying bench. Today we'll be tying a little grub pattern. It's a little caddis, grub, whatever you want to call it. It's been extremely successful for me. I tie it in several different versions. The one I'm going to tie for you guys today is probably my most successful, so let's get her going. So, in the vise today, we have a Hends BL554, size 8. Tie these in a size 6, 8, 10, 12. For the thread, we'll be using some Semperfli Classic Waxed in 8/0, Floro green. Make sure you've got wax because you'll need it for this one. I just find that it works, it just works better if you have it. For the underbody weight, I'm going to use Semperfli adhesive flat lead foil sheets. I already got a piece cut, so it's got a sticky back. And then for the main body, I'm going to use some Kiley's Nymph skin in it's a cream colored kind of a cream clear. And then for the rib, if you want to call it that, or the legs, that kind of stuff, I'll be using this Czech Nymph body dub, and I'll be using a few different colors. I'm using the darker olive here, and I'll be using might use the black. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It all depends. I tie this one with and without a bead head. So this bead head is a oversized bead in flat black. So, sorry. Let us start with the sticky back flat lead. Now I just gotta. Of course, I probably should have done this before I started the video and got the adhesive back off because I got no nails, so it's always a challenge for me. But hey, look at that, I got her. So just getting that adhesive off. Once you've got it started, it just comes right off. So, and then it's got that kind of a glue on the back. So I started about 3/4 of the way back, just with the tip. Then I'll come forward. In slightly overlapping wraps right up to that bead. Okay, and then I'll tear it off. Let that stay there. Then I'll go back, not quite as far. Maybe one turn in. And come forward. That creates a little bit of that tapered profile that you want. Okay. So now I'll just take my scissor and I'll make sure, just make sure that's flattened down nicely, which it is now. So there you go. So there is our underbody weight. Now I'll go on with my Semperfli Classic Waxed. Cut that off, wax my thread a little bit extra, just so it sticks to this underbody. Come back, come forward. Just helps tie that underbody in. And I do want this whole thing covered as best as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. If there's a little gap here and there, it's totally fine. I want that underbody green color to come through that nymph skin we're going to put on. So if there's a little gap, it's not going to make a difference. But get as much as you can. Let's see how much is that looking. That's not too bad. I'm going to actually turn this light up just a bit. That's any better, yeah. So okay, I'm going to come back. Just going to make sure this butt end gets covered and it's got that taper to it, right? Okay, I'm going to come back about there. I'm just going to I'm going to make a doubling loop. I just pulled that back too far because I was just checking my length. Because what I do here, because I don't use this doubling loop right away, I want it to long enough to go back to I've got a little clip on the back of my vise back here that I just let this just sit there so it's out of the way just for now. Okay, I'll bring this back up again, back down to about there. Get a piece of my nymph skin. I'm going to cut a nice angle on this. I'll show you what I mean. So like that, just for a tie-in point about there. And then I'll stretch it really well right back to where I want to start. And then again, all the way forward to the front. Okay. Now what I like doing here, just because sometimes I bump it, I just like doing a 2-3 turn whip finish, half hitch, whatever you feel comfortable with. Okay. Then overlapping slightly, just slightly. I just barely want to overlap. Okay, and as I come forward, I don't know if you'll notice it here. You should. See how that got thicker? I'm just letting that get thicker as I go. And just like I said, just a slight overlap. Right in behind. Tie that off. Just gonna go in behind it one more time, just to make sure. It's funny, he's making it kind of almost too much light. Let's see if that's better. Ah, that's a little bit better. It's not quite as, that fluorescent green really shines through. So again, gonna do a couple of turn whip finish, half hitch, whatever you're comfortable with. Just again, just so you don't bump this thing. Now I'm gonna take my dubbing spinner. I'm gonna take my nymph dub, my Czech nymph dub here. I'm just gonna go in and grab a little bit of that darker olivey. It's kind of a light olive, but it's darker than the thread. You know what? It's being a bit of a pain, and I don't want to open it from the other end because that makes a mess. So I like pulling it through these holes in the back that comes in the box. So this one, there we go. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to take my dubbing loop. I'm going to wax it very well. Put my dubbing spinner in. Take a little bit of this dubbing. And I don't want a ton of this. Now I can pull it out after, so it's not a huge deal if you slightly overdub it, but just want to put a little bit of dubbing in there, and then I'm going to just spread that out really well. Like I said, I don't want a really thick noodle here. So, okay, you see how nice and sparse that is. So now I'm just going to give it a good spin. Let it do its thing. Okay, pick out some of those longer ones. Then I'm just going to wrap it until there. At every time I wrapped my nymph dub, that nymph skin, I'm just going to use this as a separator. Okay, it's tied off, and then I will put a little bit of the black on this one. So same thing, gonna get a little bit of this black Czech nymph dub. I mean, you can use whatever you want, but I do want something that's got a little bit of sparkle, not a ton. That's why I'm not using like an ice dub, because I don't want a ton of it, right? So again, a little bit of wax. Wax that on nicely. I've dubbed that on nicely. Pull back. There you go. Bit of a whip finish. Okay, now I'll put some sallies right onto the thread. Just because I don't want to get it caught in that dubbing and stuff, right? So I'll put it right on the thread. And do one more set of 3. Just make sure that's pulled in nice. Pop that off. take my dubbing brush, just brush out some of that. Just cut that thread off. It didn't really cut well. There we go. Still didn't cut very well. I'm not grabbing a hold of it, I guess. There, now I got it. Yeah. And just pull that out a bit. All that dubbing. Right? Could have put probably just a tad more of the black, but with that black head, I don't really need it. Now, what I like doing when I first tie it, I like getting them wet. Just using a little bit of saliva. Usually I have a cup on my table here, but I just like getting it wet a little bit, and then I just trim some of this. I don't want it too far past. And that's it. That is my little scruffy grub. Looks really, really deadly when it's wet. There's another one, another version of it without the bead. Right. So, but yeah, that using that dubbing loop and getting it gives it that ribbed effect, and then having that this little hairs in it. It just looks like the little filaments that some of these grubs and some of these caddisflies have on them, on their sides. Their breathing gills and stuff. So I don't like them this stuff too long, so I do trim it a bit sometimes, but this one's not bad. So I'll just leave that one just as she is. So that's it. That's the like I said, that's the finished little grub. So hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, give her a thumbs up. If you've subscribed, thank you. If you have not, please consider doing so. Getting awfully close to that 2,000 subscribers, and once we do, I'll have another giveaway, hopefully a little larger this time. I'm gonna get some tying materials put together and stuff, and yeah, we'll do that. So alrighty, tie lines everyone.